Hello, and welcome to Mysterious Alien Objects Part 2. Before starting this week's video, I wanted to take a moment to apologize for not posting anything last week. As some of you may be aware, I had shoulder surgery on May 5th, and every time I tried to work on my computer, I couldn't focus and kept feeling drained. It soon became apparent that I wouldn't be able to make my normal video at that time. I am feeling quite better now, and barring any unforeseen issues in the future, I'm back. Also, I wanted to wish any of you who are watching this video that are mothers, Happy Mother's Day. 2 weeks ago, we started this mini-series with the Betz Sphere, which was found here on Earth. And today we end the series with an object that is found in Earth's orbit. The topic before us is none other than that of the Black Knight satellite. I've been wanting to make a video about this topic for a while, but came to doubt a few things about its validity. As usual, I'll go into the history of this strange object and then further our investigation with some thought-provoking theories as to what it may be. The Black Knight satellite has captured the minds and imaginations of people for many years. The idea of an enormous alien object hovering in space transmitting signals towards our planet has led to much speculation as well as criticism, but what evidence is there to prove its existence? The Black Knight is quite a confusing object in that its history as well as purpose is one found with conflicting information. This massive black satellite has been seen orbiting the Earth, as some reports claim, for over 13,000 years. Outside of physical sightings, many point to an event that occurred in 1899 as proof of the satellite serving more of an intelligent purpose other than just being space debris. Nikola Tesla had set up a high-voltage radio device in Colorado where he discovered an odd signal emanating from space. The signal came in 3 pulses within a fixed interval, and Nikola was able to rule out all natural explanations for the occurrence. Within this same time frame, a man by the name of Guglielmo Marconi was busy transmitting Morse code into space via radio signal. To his surprise, he found that many of his codes were being sent back years later. Alone, these incidents may seem random and not indicative of anything orbiting the Earth, but in 1927, a civil engineer in Oslo, Norway, by the name of Jørgen Hals, discovered that these signals were being reflected back to Earth by something relatively close to our planet. Mr. Hall's discovery led to the phenomenon known as long-delayed echoes, which to date has yet to be fully explained in the scientific community. In 1954, famed ufologist Donald Edward Keyhoe made waves when he mentioned that the U.S. Air Force had discovered not one, but 2 separate satellites orbiting the Earth. Allegedly, the Pentagon was upset by the story becoming public, as they wanted it to remain a secret. Later, they debunked the claim by stating that the objects were simply asteroids. In a lot of tellings of this report, skeptics are quick to point out that Keyhoe was promoting a UFO book at the time, and his information should be seen as basically a publicity stunt. The issue is that many fail to mention that Donald was a naval aviator for the Marine Corps, who was well respected for his writings on aviation as well as its history. Not only this, but he became a main proponent in the venture of forcing the military to release all the information they had on UFOs. Within his new study, he became well respected with his peers there as well. I mention this since most briefly write him off as just some guy who was fascinated with UFOs, when in reality he was a reputable military man who wanted the government to be open with the people. It also is worth noting that his alleged publicity stunt did force the Pentagon to talk about what they saw in our orbit. I just find that a little bit odd if we are being asked to believe Donald had no information about the topic. Jumping ahead 6 years to 1960, when the U.S. Navy's Dark Fence radar picked up an object in the polar orbit that was shockingly claimed to be about 15 tons in weight. Expectedly, the government released a statement claiming it was simply debris from the Discoverer 8 satellite. This satellite was the 8th in a series of 38 launched satellites between 1959 and 1962 under the project name Corona. Number 8 was launched on November 20th in 1959 and put into a faulty orbit, which after 15 revolutions around the planet, crashed back into the ocean. What isn't addressed is the fact that what the Dark Fence radar picked up was 15 tons in weight, but no rockets during that time frame weighed close to that, let alone debris from one. I will briefly mention that in 1973, an author and amateur astronomer named Duncan Lunan claimed that he had analyzed the data from Jørgen Hals and stated that by charting the signals, it made the exact pattern for the Boötes constellation. Not only this, but he stated he decoded the signals into a message from an alien civilization. Later on, Duncan recanted his claim, but a lot of people still use it as proof. I mention this man solely for posterity, as I feel his claims are a bit grand, as well as some of his claims of being a descendant of an illegitimate son of King Robert II from Scotland. Maybe he is onto something, but I personally find his fame-seeking character questionable. The most interesting evidence of the Black Knight came in the form of photographs from the STS-88 Endeavour missions in 1998. These are the photographs that many of you are greeted with when you look up this topic. As you can see, the images show a black alien craft-shaped object floating above Earth. The object wasn't captured on film by coincidence, as multiple shots were taken by the crew of the Endeavour, specifically focused on the Enigma. Later reports would claim that the object was actually a lost thermal blanket during the mission, but I ask, why would the crew be interested in filming something if they knew what it was? One argument that frequently arises is that if the satellite exists, why don't we go near it to figure out its purpose? From what I have gathered, it seems that the Black Knight will disappear for periods of time and return at a later date. Again, if you believe it exists. This would make exploration problematic, and that goes without the idea of the military not already knowing what it is. With all that information, what do we have to go on that makes this satellite's existence questionable? The first issue is that it's claimed to be 13,000 years old, but there are no records explaining where this date came from outside of claims made by the previously mentioned Duncan Lunan. This is troubling when right out of the gate, the first bits of information can't be substantiated. However, this alone doesn't mean the object doesn't exist. Another issue I found while researching this topic was that a lot of evidence used to support sightings had very little to do with the Black Knight. One famous excerpt from astronaut Gordon Cooper described an event where he reported seeing a UFO. Gordon later denied this report, but even as such, a UFO sighting doesn't mean he saw the Black Knight. Even the name Black Knight isn't explained, other than the tie-in it has with the 1964 British Blue Streak missile program, in which the rocket used was called the Black Knight. The most interesting evidence against the object came by way of YouTube about 2 years ago, where the video creator known as Nua goes into great depths showing evidence of the thermal blanket becoming dislodged and floating off into orbit, looking very much so like the images of the Black Knight satellite. One would think this would make the mystery object an open and shut case, but it's quite the opposite. Many point out in the video that the blanket's color is always silver, and the Black Knight is always black. Not only this, but a lot of the images are claimed to be different from what was originally shown. The evidence for this object can honestly go either way. Many times in the past we have seen examples of NASA and the government doctoring photos to keep information hidden. In fact, I covered something similar in my video titled, NASA, What Are You Doing? So, I'm unsure what to think. Do you think the Black Knight satellite is an alien artifact waiting for us to be able to communicate with it? Or is it simply some space junk that has been mistakenly identified? If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to my channel for much more content like this, and I would greatly appreciate it if you give this video a thumbs up. With that, be safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Later!